The identity of a clandestine group of immortal mercenaries is abruptly revealed, and they must now struggle to maintain their secrecy while an unexpected new member is found. Hello movie fans, welcome to my channel, Movie Recaps. Today, I will explain a 2020 action thriller film called The Old Guard. Let's jump to the explanation. Booker runs into Andy on the street and tells her about a potential hostage rescue mission they may have in South Sudan. He informs her that James Copley, a former CIA employee, is currently doing these kinds of jobs as a freelancer and wants them to take on the work. Andy refuses to accept the position because she believes the planet is no longer worth preserving. But Booker persuades her to at least return to the hotel and discuss it with Nikki and Joe. They all enthusiastically greet one another at the hotel, even though they haven't seen each other in a while. While the rest of the team seemed eager to accept the assignment, Andy was still on the fence. She has no faith in Copley. They persuade her to accompany Booker to a meeting with him so they can hear him out, and she accesses. Nikki and Joe keep an eye out from the hotel window to make sure nothing goes wrong, while Andy and Booker are seated at a table outside near a cafe. Copley informs them of the problem and how they might contribute to changing it. Though Andy hesitates, he accepts the position. Copley responds to her inquiry about his departure from the CIA by explaining that he made the decision to take a break after his wife was ill, but was unable to return after she passed away. To scout out the hostage situation, the group boards a chopper and heads to South Sudan. The guards are stealthily killed after darkness falls, and they enter the building afterward. They find no captives once they are inside the bunker. Andy discovers that there are cameras installed on the ceiling. The chamber is suddenly invaded by dozens of military soldiers who begin firing on the four with their weapons. Blood gathers around them as they land on the ground. Once they believe they are dead, the troops turn away, but their bodies quickly begin to recover and flush out the bullets. Copley saw all of this happen as they rose up and killed the soldiers. Before boarding a train, they bury their bleeding clothing in the sand. They talk about their alternatives on the inside. The evidence Copley possesses of their resurrecting, according to Andy, requires them to track him out and murder him. Niles serves with the American military in Afghanistan. She is dispatched on a mission to check on a group of ladies who they suspect may be being kept prisoner by an adversary. They secretly guide her toward the male when she confronts the ladies, and she then goes inside the structure to murder him. He receives a shot to the chest from her, and as she goes to check on the body, he slashes her neck. As she passes away, her pal comforts her. The crew on the train dreams that Niles is dead, while Niles dreams of the train crew in the Afghan medical tent. The team understands that the dreams indicate there is a second of them. Andy is annoyed by this since she wants to end things with Copley and go into hiding. She is persuaded by the rest of the crew that they must find Niles and take her in. She promises to handle things on her own and to meet them in Paris. They have the assignment of finding Copley. When her friends visit to see how she's doing and discover that she doesn't even have a scar from the incident, Niles discovers that they are all frightened of her. Following the reporting of the event, Niles learns that the woman will be taken to Germany for additional testing. Her pals have already packed away her belongings when she returns to her tent. Thousands of potential stem cell donors in England attend a lecture Merrick makes. The only thing he needs is money, he claims, and he will use his expertise to discover a way to eradicate sickness and increase lifetime. Later, Merrick meets with Copley and a few members of his staff to talk about Andy and her crew. Merrick is dissatisfied when Copley shows him the video he was able to get of them reviving. He claims he needs concrete evidence, or else viewers would assume the film has been altered. Copley should find them and bring them to him. According to him, Niles is waiting for a helicopter to come and pick her up, so she may be flown to Germany when Andy interrupts and kidnaps her. She suddenly makes an attempt to flee after awakening in the army vehicle's trunk that Andy is operating. Andy slams on the brakes to go grab her when she kicks out the rear and hits the ground. In response to Niles' attempts to flee, Andy shoots her in the back of the head. She waits for Niles to revive, and when she does, Andy informs her that she needs to get back in the car if she wants answers. In order to transport drugs to Paris, Andy and Niles board an aircraft. After Andy falls asleep, Niles ties Andy to her chair and orders the pilot to reverse course while holding a pistol to his head. Niles appears dissatisfied with the answers Andy has given him. Andy awakens and instructs the pilot to pretend to be dead in Russian, so she may divert Niles. While Niles and Andy argue, the pilot resumes control of the jet as it flies to Paris. In the end, Andy prevails and manages to calm Niles down enough for her to agree to go to Paris. When they get to Paris, they join the rest of the group in an ancient deserted church. They eat supper together and get to know one another. Andy claims to be the oldest, but doesn't know how old she truly is. Nikki and Joe first met at the Crusades in the 12th century as rivals, while Booker attained immortality in the 18th century. With the exception of Andy, who sits up on a chair in the living room, they all retire to bed. Niles wakes everyone up in the middle of the night after having a nightmare. She reveals that she had a dream about a lady who was imprisoned in an iron casket and drowned in the ocean. She was seen by Quinn, an eternal lady who fought with Andy, the crew explains to her. They were apprehended and charged with witchcraft while trying to release ladies who had been suspected of practicing witchcraft. The community got to work attempting to come up with a plan of action to get rid of them after realizing they couldn't die, which only served to reinforce their suspicions. They eventually divided the ladies, placed Quinn in an iron casket, and threw the coffin into the water. She drowns repeatedly inside, just to come to life and pass away once again for all of time. Although it is extremely unlikely, they explain that they may pass away. According to them, an immortal's time comes when their wounds cease healing after a certain amount of time has passed since they were born. Andy and Niles discuss their loved ones and the individuals they must leave behind in order to lead their new lives as they converse outside. They can hear troops outside the chapel as they are speaking. They understand Copley has discovered their hiding place. Copley keeps an eye on everything from a nearby surveillance vehicle, while Andy takes care of the soldiers. Joe and Nikki are nowhere to be found when they return to the chapel. Booker takes some time to recover after being injured by a grenade. While Andy kills the remaining troops, Niles waits with Booker. They prepare their belongings and go to a different hiding place before she returns. Joe and Nikki awaken in a vehicle with soldiers all around them. When they attempt to hug, the soldiers stop them and make fun of them for being homosexual. When the van arrives in England to meet Copley, the back is open to see that Joe and Nikki had murdered everyone inside while still being restrained. They are led to Merrick, who informs them that he plans to use them for stem cell research and will experiment on them up until he discovers a way to increase human lifetime. He makes it plain that he doesn't give a damn about what he has to do to them or how much agony they endure. All that matters is that he gets the desired outcomes. Merrick requests that Copley send him Andy and Booker when Nikki and Joe are taken away to a lab. Andy, Booker, and Niles seek refuge in an abandoned mine. Andy notices that she isn't getting better on her own inside, and that she is still bleeding from the battle at the church. She leaves quietly, and Booker enters to speak to Niles about how difficult it is to see all of your loved ones die, particularly when others don't believe them when they claim they can't help. Andy makes a drugstore stop to get prescription medication. In the back room, the cashier offers to assist her in tending to her injuries. The woman responds that she expects Andy to share the generosity with someone else tomorrow, when Andy inquires as to why she is assisting her in the first place, especially without asking any questions. She makes an effort to accept the idea that she is not eternal as Andy gets back to the car. In Merrick's lab, medical chairs with straps are used to restrain Joe and Nikki. Copley tries to convince Merrick that he no longer needs to hold the samples hostage, since he already has all the samples he could possibly require. With regard to Joe and Nikki, Merrick declares he will do as he pleases, and that he won't stop working until he achieves his goals. Nikki informs the nurse that they won't be able to generate any results, since similar tests on them have been attempted in the past, under the same pretext of aiding people. But they have always failed. In the middle of the night, Niall wakes up from a horrible dream and walks outside. They discuss their families and the difficulty of being eternal when she discovers Andy looking through her phone. They meet with Booker, who informs them that he has located a potential place where Copley could be, and they proceed there. They park their vehicle outside the building's perimeter gate and get ready to enter. Niles declines to follow Andy's order to send Booker ahead to scout the area because she says she can't live with murdering people, and that she wants to spend as much time as possible with her family before it's too late. While pointing her in the direction of a railway station, Andy allows her to keep the car and the pistols. Along with Booker, she enters the structure alone. Copley is captured and held at gunpoint after being discovered in an upper room. She is restrained after being shot in the side by Booker, much to Andy's amazement. He reveals that he set them up and brought everyone to Copley and Merrick in the hopes that Merrick can find a method to kill them, so they won't have to suffer any longer. At that point, Booker becomes alarmed after realizing that Andy isn't recovering. Copley objects and says he doesn't believe Andy will withstand the tests they are going to subject her to as guards enter and detain Booker and Andy. The guards remove them, and Merrick doesn't seem to care. Andy and Booker are brought by Merrick to the confinement area where Joe and Nikki are being tested. Merrick is informed by Copley that if Andy loses his immortality, then the testing would amount to murder, and Copley would not support it. Merrick ejects him and begins working to keep Andy alive so that they may test her. Niles circles back to Merrick's base after turning around. Copley tells her what's going on once she finds him. He explains to her that he has studied Andy and her team for years and has learned about all the excellent deeds they have accomplished for mankind. He claims that he mistakenly believed that by taking them inside and conducting this experiment, he would be doing the world some good, but now he knows that he was mistaken and that if they had simply left them alone, they would have done more good. Copley agrees to take Niles to the location where Merrick is holding them, and Copley provides her with an entry code. The soldiers tell Merrick that Niles is also immortal, as she makes her way past the building's tiny army. She discovers where they are being held and sets them free. Because Booker betrayed them, Nikki and Joe are enraged, and Andy is done wanting to fight. Niles persuades Andy that she still has a vow to uphold and a purpose to fight, while Joe and Nikki are persuaded by Andy that now is not the time to debate about this. They all receive weapons from Niles, and they then travel throughout the building in an effort to track down and assassinate Merrick. They all attempt to protect Andy, but she swiftly demonstrates that even though she is no longer immortal, she is still just as competent. When they get to Merrick's office, they discover that he is not there, and that the elevator is about to descend. While Niles stays with Andy, Nikki and Joe go after Merrick. The elevator moving down was a ruse, as Merrick then appears with a revolver pointed at Andy. Niles and Andy imitate the trick Andy pulled on her on the airplane, and Andy pretends to be dead to divert Merrick long enough for Niles to assault him. They shatter the glass and fall from many stories down before colliding with a vehicle and dying there. Nikki and Joe go to check on Niles and assist her in exiting the vehicle. When Andy catches up with them, they abandon Merrick's body and flee via car. After lunch, the group agrees on what to do with Booker to make up for betraying them while he waits outside. "She will be a terrific addition to the team," says Niles as he walks outside to comfort him. 100 years alone will serve as his punishment, Andy and the man decide after talking with him on the beach. They will never again see each other since Andy is mortal. The gang approaches Copley and tells him that they must remove any proof of their immortality, while also pleading with him to assist them in bringing about a change in the world. The beautiful movie ends here. If you like this film, please subscribe to my channel.